In this episode, we're going to talk about a bit of a belief or fallacy that lies where a lot of people think to build something really amazing, people will come.
If people can't understand the patterns of what helps them succeed and what helps them fail, where does that lead you? It's not going to be growth.
This episode breaks down the foundations of a real client acquisition system.
So a client acquisition, it needs to be predictable, Dave. Whether you're B2B, B2C, professional services, you name it, you need to be able to have a predictable process in place.
If you want to land more of the right clients in 2026, this is where the system starts. Welcome to the Revenue Leaders Podcast. Well, Riggs, this is a lovely situation that we're in. First off, as we're recording this, it's International Women's Day. So happy International Women's Day to you and all of our female listeners and to my girls at home. Second best thing is that we finally have got rid of Luigi.
We're free, mate. And I feel like I just feel relaxed, happy. It's just a blissful occasion, isn't it? On both counts.
It is.
Appreciate the International Women's Day piece, but yeah, more importantly, no Louis. Bit of peace and quiet.
It's great. And thanks for everyone that reaches out to me on LinkedIn to ask me if I'm okay with the amount of crap that he gives me on these podcasts. It's fine. It is allowed, and I do give him a few shin kicks afterwards, but it's all good. But anyway, I digress. With it, we're going to dive right into this episode. We're doing a bit of a series, right? Something a bit different. So each of these episodes now are going to string together. So this mini-series is about the complete client acquisition system. Bit of a tongue tie, but it's basically how do you get customers, right? That's what we're focusing on. And in this episode, we're going to talk about, a bit of a belief or fallacy that lies where a lot of people think that if they build it, people will just come, right? I'm building this great product. It's going to be the best product, but I haven't thought about how I'm going to attract people. I'm not really focused on that right now. And I just want to build. And if I build something really amazing, people will come. And what we see time and time again, it's that just fails. I'd love to, you say this a lot, Riggs, as well, within your world, seeing businesses that come through in the amount of different types. What's sort of your belief system around that?
Yeah, I think that probably the first part is like, when businesses, and I see this a lot with professional services, people kind of rely on hope. And I hate to quote Louis in the first answer that I'm given here, but hope is not a strategy. So it needs to be, a process. And if people can't understand the patterns of what helps them succeed and what helps them fail, then I think that where does that lead you? It's not going to be growth. There might be some growth, but if you're going after your next goal, you need to make sure that you understand what those patterns are and have a system in place. And I think that this is the first, real chunky topic that we're going to deep dive into today.
Yeah, that's true. It's like when you're starting out, you're going to your network, friends, family, previous sort of job places that you've worked at. So you feel like, things are moving along, but that's a bit of a false narrative because you don't really have a system in place to generate, new customers after you've gone through that first wave. Look, I've ever seen businesses, especially in the tech space, get to $1 million, $2 million in annual recurring revenue. And that's mainly from their network or it's founder-led sales. And they think they've got a system in place, but then when they hire, they quickly find out that they don't because there's nothing really to enable that individual to go out and sell. We talk about patterns and how to build a system like that in place. What would you see, the biggest sort of pattern from your experience, especially in the professional services world, Riggs, on what does a partner need to have in place in order to build that revenue side of the business?
So a client acquisition, it needs to be predictable, Dave. So whether you're B2B, B2C, professional services, you name it, you need to be able to have a predictable process in place. Otherwise, you don't know where your next deal is coming from. You don't know how to forecast. So you have to have that structure there. And I think for any sort of sales process, it comes down to, a foundation of a few pillars. But I guess for me, I'd love to understand, from that perspective, what do you think those pillars should be for any business to be able to achieve growth?
Yeah, it really comes down to these three core pillars. So know really who you're going after. Then it's about how do you reach these people consistently? And then once you've got them on your calendar and you're talking with them, how do you convert them? Right, this is the big three. So know who you're going after to a high level of detail. How do you reach these people? And then how do you convert these people, right? So I think you need to know those three foundations before you go beyond that. And I guess, Riggs, like you'll see this, quite a lot within the space. Where do you see, companies fall flat during this process?
The first one is, knowing your client. For example, if you think you serve everyone, that's going to be your biggest issue, right? And that goes back to my analogy about kids on a soccer field. Like ball goes that way, people go that way. It's just distraction. We talk about this a lot in Coach Pilot as well. Like we have to stay focused. We have those segments that we're focusing on, our ideal client profiles, which we'll talk about in episode 2. But I think that if people try to go for too many types of businesses, it's more distraction than anything else. So stop trying to be everything to everyone would probably be where I see like the biggest mistakes. I mean, what about you? Where do you see it?
Yeah, look, it's such a I've been, I won't say victim, but I've had this issue, in previous business. So like in Locomote, we had a business travel tech platform and it just managed the way companies would organize and book their travel, right? So effectively, it could work for any business that books travel. So we go after anyone. The world, every business is a customer of ours, right? Wow. But it was an issue because then our messaging was very vanilla. It spoke to everyone, but spoke to no one. And when we just, we're struggling in the early days because, we run a bank and then we run a not-for-profit, then we run an SME, and was like, well, it felt good because we're getting market validation, but being a startup, or even like if you're in your Series A, B, or C, you've got limited resources, time. So messaging is a real key thing. And people now, with so many products and services that are out in the marketplace, people are looking for, I want something that is speaking directly to me. So same thing again now with Coach Pilot. We've got customers in a few different spaces because in the early day we're working out, who really wants what we're doing and who really benefits. And we've seen a few different ICPs come through, but we've, chosen a core ICP that we believe that we can really serve, help, and our messaging is going to be really tailored to them. So when they read it, it feels like, we're in the room talking to them. But it is hard because it's like, well, we're ignoring this big other segment. And I think the conversation that we had that really put us at ease is like, we're not ignoring them, right? What we're doing is that we're just parking them to the side for now. We want to focus on this niche, really grow this segment, be known for this segment. And then at the right time, then we can open up our target market to invite another ICP in, another type of buyer, another type of industry into our marketplace of, what is right for us. But it is one of the hardest things as a founder, as a leader, even as a seller, to really focus on, one niche. It's a challenge that we work for every day because you get a great opportunity comes through, a bit of that shiny paper syndrome. You're like, oh, this can open up $1 billion revenue. Do we look at it? But then you never go deep on any space.
Pardon the interruption. I'm Luigi, one of the co-hosts here at Revenue Leaders. You'll notice we don't run sponsors or ads on Revenue Leaders.
This show is free. Our goal is to help you grow revenue and build your sales system that you can rely on. We do have a favour to ask though.
If this episode gives you one clear idea that you can use, do these 2 things. First, share it with one person, a founder, a revenue leader, or a rep who wants to grow their business. Just one. That's how the show grows.
Second, grab free access to our vault over at coachpilot.com/vault. Inside, you'll get the frameworks, templates, and short courses we use with clients to help them scale pipeline and increase win rates.
So the deal is simple. If you get value, share the episode with one person and go to coachpilot.com/vault to get the tools to put this into action. All right, let's get back to it. Yeah, and I think that, do you want to play at the superficial level? No, what I find, and you spoke about it before, is focus. It's probably and I'm sure we can both unpack this about how focus actually creates more opportunity, right? So yes, allow things to come in. You know, we've had a few great inbound opportunities or opportunities through networking where they saw the connection for Coach Pilot, and I didn't recognize it at the start. But then, you know, other parts of that are when we have that focus, you know, it does bring more opportunity. I think that it's like a manufacturing line, right? So manufacturing, if you have the right message to the right same core group, like you said, personalization, like you will actually be able to create more meaningful conversation. I mean, how do you see it with that focus?
Yeah, look, focus is key. And focus comes from various things, right? It's depending on the amount of projects you work on, the amount of things that are happening in your life, right? That has a big key because it's all mental space. Focus then creates clarity in everything that you do, from the decisions you make on your product or service offering to your messaging to how your team go out and sell to everything that you build. From a sales enablement perspective, the PDFs, all the little bits and pieces, it's crystal clear as to who you're targeting, and you know. And I think one of the biggest things is the mental space. It's not something that's, you know, you could clearly see, but it happens when you are in the shower and you have a light bulb moment on, this would be a great idea for the product. When you're just, you know, out with the family or doing something that's non-relating to work and then an idea pops in your head, that's your subconscious working because you've got real clarity and focus on what you're building and what you're working on, rather than having, you know, okay, we serve 20 different markets or I've got this side project and I'm doing this and X, Y, Z. Your brain doesn't have that sort of bouncing around activity. It's got that mental clarity. And it's almost like an AI tool that's working in the background, right? Your subconscious, it's powerful where it is. When you're asleep, it's working based on the problems that you went through that day, what you spoke about that day. And then all of a sudden you just have this light bulb moment when really it's just a series of events that have happened. And at that right time, and when you had that mental space, bang, the idea pops up. And I truly believe you can't have that, you know, activate if you're trying to work on too many things or trying to sell to too many people or have multiple projects on at any time.
And I'd imagine you'd have this in, like, from your experience in the Locomote days, right? Where if you're able to put this into practice, like what would have happened? Like when you put this, let me reframe. When you put this into practice, you know, what happens to the sales team? What happens to the marketing team? What happens to bottom line? What do you see when that focus occurs?
It's like all the planets align, right? Yeah. And everything just starts to work and you feel like things are getting easier. And to a point it is, because I remember when I said, you know, I started to get some good wins back in the Locomote days, selling to tech businesses that were at sort of Series A. I had a few networks and I had a few connections there. So I was able to build out a good narrative around it, build out a good list of who I could target. And especially in Australia, there was a good sizable amount of companies to go after. The narrative, you know, started to shift. You know, we'll talk in their language because we were one of them. And we knew their pains, their struggles. We knew the issues that they're going to run into. So we just spoke to that ICP really clearly. And then as I was delivering that message to our team, it just became a lot easier for them to go out and reach out. And it resonated a lot because when you get that clarity, the sales process, the business operations, the product development, things become a lot easier because you're working with one. I'll never forget, you know, back to that again, it was when, you know, we had the bank and then we had the not-for-profit, and from a product perspective, two very different needs, right? And at that early stage, well, we needed revenue and we wanted to win these customers. They were two awesome brand names. We're talking like one of the biggest banks in Australia and the biggest not-for-profits in Australia. Like such great validation, but two very different use cases wanted two very different things. So we had to diverge our focus and build out separate things, right? Which was, we just did it because we had to, but hindsight's a beautiful thing. I tell my wife all the time. She's Mrs. Hindsight. Oh, we should have done this. Oh, man, thanks, Mrs. Hindsight. You know, we would have chosen just one direction and just gone really deep in that. And we would have, you know, probably taken one step back, but that would have enabled us to take 5 steps further in 12 months' time. And having that patience is, again, in hindsight, it's easy to say, but when you're in that heat of the moment, it's really hard to be disciplined on.
Yeah. Oh, there's so many good things about that as well. And I mean, I think that's one of the learnings we take into Coach Pilot too, is that, say if Louis and I get really excited about an idea or like want to go down a path, what we actually have with you as a co-founder is you are an anchor bringing us back. So I guess a piece of learning what I've seen already so valuable is that, if you have business partners or if you're working with a team, like who's your anchor to keep you focused? I think that's probably a really cool thing as well. I mean, maybe to wrap up as well. So if, episode 1, what are those top 3 things that people should take from this episode, and why should they keep listening, I guess?
So client acquisition is not a hustle. It's a system, right? You need a system in place, and clarity, probably the second biggest thing. Clarity compounds. It's your multiplier. Yeah. It's your secret weapon. If you focus on those 2 key things, you're well on your way to building a big business.
Yeah, awesome. And I think that from there, it's like that creating that foundation is really, really important. But then from there, you need to make sure that you've got that system in place. Next step, get really, really focused on your ICP, right? So, and this is what we're going to unpack more in episode 2. And we actually have a special guest coming in with Louis and I. So I'm really excited. Simone Barker, a friend of ours, a former colleague of mine, and also someone that we've coached historically. And so we're going to deep dive with her on, the importance of getting that ICP right and what it does essentially for your business or for your practice. So listen in.